Welcome to the podcast, Lighting the Educational Flame, created and produced by educator and author Marc Hoberman, owner and director of Grade Success Tutoring. Marc will be joined by Susan Brender, CEO and host of The Susan Brender Show. The purpose of this program is to offer our listeners a variety of stories dealing with many interesting topics surrounding education. It is our hope that students and parents alike will benefit from the wide range of topics, including study skills, test prep, anti-bullying, sports, music, and more. A special aspect of our podcast is that the shows will also feature a teen guest host. We hope you enjoy our show, Lighting the Educational Flame.
Hello, everyone. This is Susan Brender, the host of The Susan Brender Show. I'm very excited about our new project called Radio Reverb. The first pilot is Lighting the Educational Flame with Marc Hoberman. Our program is about giving a voice to any adult or teenager so that they have an opportunity to speak out in their community. Yes, if you're interested in learning how to do your own podcast, contact me at Brender@yahoo.com. And now stay tuned for Marc Hoberman and his second show called Lighting the Educational Flame as he interviews Matt Malden. Lighting the Educational Flame is sponsored today by Mathew Malden of Malden Aquatics. Swimming lessons, lifeguard Red Cross training courses, camp lifeguard training, pool parties, and more, located in Rockland County, New York. Contact info@MaldenAquatics.com.
Hi, Susan. Thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate that introduction. We're lucky with us, as you said. We have Matt Malden with us. Matt is the owner of Malden Aquatics. He also has a master's degree in teaching and various instructional certifications from the American Red Cross. So, Matt, thanks for joining us today on Lighting the Educational Flame.
It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you guys having me on. Very excited to talk a little bit about swimming.
Definitely. Got a lot of questions for you. I know, besides swimming lessons, you also do lifeguard training. So what are the benefits of being a lifeguard, and why is it an important job to have?
So over a decade of being an American Red Cross lifeguard instructor, I tell so many people how much being a lifeguard is a wonderful job to have, and it's a benefit to the community. So along with protecting safety of swimmers, lifeguards also play an active role in educating people on pool and water safety. So I always believe that there's certain natural characteristics that a successful lifeguard has. So they take on natural leadership roles, and as well as the role of a teacher. So it's a great job to have, and it also leads to growth within the industry. So from being a lifeguard, you can become a lifeguard instructor, water safety instructor. So there are a lot of natural progressions you can have once getting that certification.
Got it. And many years ago, I was a lifeguard. It has to be like almost 40 years ago. And what's changed? Like, what are the requirements now of becoming a lifeguard?
Well, 40 years ago, there might have been one or two things that have definitely changed over the years. One of the immediate requirements is age. So you have to be 15 by the last day of the course that you're taking. So you could be 14 on the first class, but by that third or fourth class when you finish, you have to be 15. There also are some physical requirements that you have to complete in order to take the class. For example, you have to do a 300-yard swim, shred for 2 minutes, and retrieve a 10-pound weight from 7 feet of water. So nothing too difficult, but physical requirements to make sure that you're fit enough to act appropriately in an emergency situation.
Matt, I have a question for you. It seems to me that swimming is a very, very interesting sport because it allows almost anybody at any age to participate. Now, you had experiences working with young people, baby boomers, octogenarians. I mean, can everybody participate in swimming, and does it have really good results for them?
Absolutely. Swimming is something that you can start as early as 6 months. So the American Red Cross has Mommy and Me courses that start at 6 months old, and there really is no age requirement when it comes to swimming. I know when we teach our swim lessons through my company, we have a wide variety of students. In fact, last summer we had a woman who was in her mid-70s enrolled in swim classes. She had never learned to swim. It was her life goal learn how to do it, and it was such a pleasure being able to provide that service for her and teach her. And she did fantastic. So as long as you're healthy and you're physically capable of doing it, it's a wonderful sport and a wonderful activity for anyone of any age to start.
I'm going to ask you another question, which I think is very important for people with disabilities. If you have a disability, is swimming a good sport for you to do as well?
Absolutely. It's important that you're working with people who are trained or certified to deal with those specific disabilities, so they know how to handle any problems that might arise in the water, whether it's physical or behavior management issue. I know through Malden Aquatics we have specialists who are certified to work with special needs students, but it's a great environment for everyone. So I encourage parents who have children with special needs. It's a great thing to get their kids involved in.
Now, Marc, what question would you feel is really important for Matt to answer? Because I know that swimming, it goes across the board. There's so many different things that one can ask. What do you think is one of the more important questions to ask, Marc?
Well, certainly I want to ask Matt, what are the benefits of receiving swim instruction, and why should kids learn to swim? Sometimes they're just in a pool at home, but a lot of times people think that actual swim instruction is the best way to go. So why do you think kids should learn how to swim and receive swim instruction?
Which is a great question. So safety is the number one topic I tell people when they ask me what's the benefits of receiving swim instruction. So the importance of swim instruction in regards to safety can't be overstated. So the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the National Center for Injury Prevention Control show that from 2004 through 2015, there was an average of 3,536 fatal unintentional drownings. And this is non-boating related, and that's annually. So that's a significant number. So you have to stop and ask yourself, how many of these incidents could have been prevented with a greater knowledge of swimming and water safety? So swimming is really one of those life skills that everyone should have. It's an extremely fun recreational activity, and it's healthy for you. So it also opens up a lot of other recreational activities that you wouldn't normally be able to do if you didn't have that core swimming ability. So, for example, kayaking, which I recently started doing, and I love doing, surfing, snorkeling. So all these activities I would certainly not recommend doing if you didn't know how to swim. And if all that isn't convincing enough, let's be honest, on a hot 90-degree day, where would you rather be than in a nice, refreshing pool with your friends? So there are so many benefits to receiving swim instruction.
Well, you just mentioned some of the benefits, and I heard you mention something about health. So how exactly can swimming impact your health?
So swimming is, in my opinion, is one of the best types of exercise that someone could use to get into better shape or maintain a healthy lifestyle. I think people today are very concerned with lifting weights and getting buff, but that style of exercise certainly can take a toll on your body. So swimming provides a full body workout. So it's a great aerobic workout, helps build muscles because you have water resistance, and you don't see a lot of the joint and muscle injuries that you might see in a traditional gym setting where you are lifting weights. So you'll see an increase in muscle strength, cardiovascular condition, flexibility, so increased core. It's a wonderful way to exercise. And you'll notice that for people who've had injuries, surgery, a lot of the times they'll give treatments that are based in water because, again, it is a low resistance on your joints.
You know, I'm interested in knowing about water aerobics. You were talking a little bit about health and how, of course, swimming affects your health. People have a lot of issues with their heart, and so water aerobics might be a way for them to really deal with a heart condition. Is this true or is this false?
Again, it's a great place for people who've had surgeries and are in some type of rehabilitation program. One, the water displaces your weight, and it's easier on the joints. So for something where you're kind of easing back into an aerobic workout, the pool is definitely a great environment for you to get started. Again, you work at your own pace, something that you're comfortable with, something that your physical therapist or your doctor has recommended for you. But it's a great place to get back into shape, especially if you've been ill or sick or have had some type of injury.
Well, you mentioned something, Matt, about how healthy it is and different ages. And a lot of parents are wondering, when should you start enrolling your children in swim instruction?
I would say right away. As soon as you start giving bath time to your child, that's an opportunity for you to provide a positive experience and positive associations with water. So again, I know we talked a little earlier in the show about that the American Red Cross offers Mommy and Me courses starting at 6 months old. So you can really start your child in the water very, very early on. I know I'm the Waterfront Director at a major day camp in Rockland. Our swim program starts at 3 years old, and you would be amazed at the progress our 3- and 4-year-olds make in the water for only being with us for 2 months. We have kids who've never been in the water or have very, very little experience, and by the end of the summer, they're able to do an independent stroke. So you shouldn't be nervous to start your child in the water at a very young age. Some parents might wait a little bit because their child might have a fear or anxiety. They tell themselves, well, maybe a couple more years, they'll be a little more mature, the fear will go away, and sometimes that can actually make it greater. So I encourage everyone to get the kids in the water at a very young age, as soon as possible.
You know, Matt, I realized that one of the most interesting sports in the Olympics happens to be swimming. People from all walks of life, people all over the world, they love watching that. Now, you must understand what it takes to become an Olympic swimmer. Just curious to know a little bit about that.
Well, you'll see a lot of these Olympians, people like Michael Phelps who have made the sport extremely popular, and you've seen such an increase in people who are now participating in swimming because of his recent success over the years. These kids, these Olympians, they start as very young children. They're in swim programs and swim teams for elementary age students, and they go all the way through middle school and high school. So it is a sport that you can get involved in competitively at a young age. It isn't something that you have to wait till middle school or high school to start doing swim races.
You mentioned a lot about age, and we're talking about kids, and it really runs the gamut, so many different age ranges. Is there ever an age where instruction is no longer effective or recommended?
No, I recommend, as long as you're fit and you're healthy and able to do so, that you continue to work out in the pool. Again, we spoke earlier about one of my participants she was in her mid-70s and learned how to swim for the first time. So there really is no cutoff as far as age when it comes to swimming. Again, the key is that you're healthy and you're able to do so, but it's a wonderful activity that you're able to do well into your later years.
Marc, what I'd like to ask you is how people get in touch with you. Do you offer special courses for people, even if they're in places different than in New York where you live? I mean, what do you want to tell our audience? And I'm going to give you the last word, and then, Marc, you just ask your question, if you will.
Sure. So a couple ways to get in touch with me is through our company website, which is MaldenAquatics.com, MALDEN, aquatics.com, and through there you can send emails as well as different messages. Our number is 845-641-3769, so I'm always answering my phone calls and emails. Again, becoming a lifeguard and getting involved in the pool is such a rewarding job, and it's a wonderful thing to do for yourself and for the community. So I highly recommend that if you're looking for a summer job or you're looking to get involved within your community, that lifeguarding is something that you consider. I started when I was 15, and it had such a great impact on me that I'm now a teacher, and I've been teaching lifeguarding courses for over a decade. So I can't say enough great things about the profession and the job itself.
I think that's great. And what I really want to ask Matt in closing, quite honestly, is that I really want to touch upon the fact that some people do swim instruction at home, people have pools, people go away to hotels. So, Matt, what are some of the do's and don'ts when teaching swim instruction at home?
It's a very interesting question, because I just had a mother call me, I would say probably 2 weeks ago, saying, I'm trying to get ready for the summer season. We don't really have access to a pool. Is there anything I can do at home? So one of the things I always say in this situation is no pool, no problem. It's kind of a little slogan I throw around in that situation. So if your child does enjoy bath time and they're still taking baths, tub is a great place to practice some simple skills in the convenience of your own home. So in the interest of keeping most of the water in the tub, I don't recommend big kicks that you might see in the pool, but alternating your head in and out of the water, or side to side, which is called rotary breathing, is an extremely important skill for novice and intermediate swimmers to practice. So one cute way we teach that skill is when your face is in the water, you're blowing bubbles, you're talking to the fish. And when you're turning your head to the side and you're listening to the fish. So it's a really great game that you can play with your kids in the water, and it's practicing a very important skill that they're going to need for future strokes. One thing I would recommend is not using goggles as soon as you start teaching your child how to swim. I find that it can be a safety blanket for a lot of children. So they'll start their swim lessons. They're making fantastic progress, and then one day they forget their goggles. They almost have a breakdown in skills in the water because they've relied on those goggles to swim. So if your child isn't sensitive to the water, I always recommend to parents that you avoid using goggles.
Excellent. So appreciate all that. That's all great. I love the goggle advice because as a young swimmer, I remember that I loved the goggles. When I took them off, I was not comfortable at all because of the chlorine, and I wasn't used to it at all. So I just want to remind our listeners that we have been listening to Matt Malden, owner and director of Malden Aquatics. And Matt, thanks so much for joining us today on Lighting the Educational Flame. Again, www.MaldenAquatics.com is how you can reach Matt. He also listed some phone numbers and other contact information. And I want to thank Susan Brender, Susan, for being with us today as well. I really appreciate it. And we also want to remind our listeners that most of our shows will actually be hosted by a teen guest host. So if you have any questions or you know someone who might be interested in being a guest host, contact us at info@gradesuccess.com. Thanks again for listening to Lighting the Educational Flame, and we hope you have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Lighting the Educational Flame with Marc Hoberman. To contact Marc, email him at info@gradesuccess.com.